This next one is public forum strategic planning. Would you like to speak to that, Christine?
Yes, this is what I put together based on the forum that we had. And it was my understanding of what we actually concluded at the end of that we were looking at combining the current mission with one that you really liked from a different school district and synthesizing those, but there is no plan for how or who or when. And that we came up with 3 visioning statements that were very strongly supported in the survey. And that we still have to go over the last part of the survey that we haven't done yet, which is the actual what would you like to see in a strategic plan. So I'm looking for direction on what you would like to do about the mission statement, whether you're happy with those 3 vision statements, and if you agree that we would do a second forum early in 2008 to complete the process.
We have all the comments on the website through the SAU, and I think it would be really useful for everybody on the board to read through those before we come up with a recommendation on mission statement, because there are a lot of comments on the mission statement. People really took some time, and so it would be useful for us to look at that and then look at these two. But with the emphasis on academics, I think that was really what was coming out loud and clear in those comments. And then my recommendation, given the fabulous turnout we had on our last meeting, was to put it in a, before the school board meeting, sometime in February, January, something like that. If other people agree with me on that one. Does it seem?
Yes, I agree.
We all showed up for a night. Yeah, so, do you want us to give you some recommendations next month after we look at all the comments?
That sounds good. I'm hoping by the end of this year that we have a document that has these 3 sections in it, and a strategic plan which you really feel comfortable pursuing.
Cool. Because, you know, once we put the strategic plan out, that's when everybody's going to come and tell us. Do we want to have a budget discussion, or do we want to have a break? Okay, we're going to have a budget discussion. Are you guys going to have a budget discussion?
You asked for this to be put back on the agenda. We really won't, no. We will be meeting with Pam.
Our plan is to have a budget for you in
December.
We don't have anything to discuss about the budget.
Not right now, but we'll be presenting it in December,
And then
there'll
the
be lots of
we'll
time to
discuss.
discuss and talk.
I'm so glad, because I wasn't ready to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Teresa, before we leave, did anybody in the audience come because that was on the agenda? Okay. Question. Oh, they did?
Yeah, then we better have a discussion.
Yeah.
That was kind of you. New business. We're going to have the first reading of the Safe School Practices Policy, and the reason that this is before us is so that we are in compliance with what is required of us to have in our handbook. So, where is that? I'm looking for it.
Last
It's
page.
under the
Last
other.
page.
It's the last page? Okay.
This is the last policy that we need to pass in order to meet minimum approval standards. So once this policy is passed by the board, you're conditionally approved until we get all of our paperwork together. This is the last thing we need.
Make a motion to accept school safe practices.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Where does it go?
The Department of Education. We have
Okay.
to, on a yearly basis, assess whether or not we're meeting a very thick document called minimum approval standards. And a lot of that is, do you have the following policies in place? So this is one that we're required to have.
Looks like it covers everything.
And my understanding is all of these are in our student handbook.
Not
No?
necessarily all the policies in the Early Student Handbook. They're in your policy manual, and they're online, but not necessarily in the student handbook.
Having cheerfully voted for this, I do note, with some reference to previous discussions, that there's nothing about coming to and from school. And back when I went to school, we still had dinosaurs then, the school was assumed to have custody of the students from the time they left their house to the time they returned. And so what you did, walking to school and walking home, was subject to action by the school.
Really?
Now, I don't know if that's the case now, in more enlightened times, but since school buses, activities on school buses are there, I'm just wondering about activities for walkers.
The board has an obligation to make sure that if students are walking to a bus stop, that the route is reasonably safe. But that's the only thing that I'm aware of that's actually in statute. I've never seen anything that requires us to assume responsibility for behaviors or even for safe routes for walkers. And I see people nodding, so I'm thinking that we're in agreement that there isn't anything other than a safe route to a bus stop. And that's not even behaviorally. That's
Okay,
just
this is a first reading, so I'll check out 306.4D and see what that promoting school safety administrative rule is. So, on the second reading. Okay, would you like to talk about the veggie grant?
I would.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yes. Veggie grant.
You're an incredible food service director. I was so impressed. We sat down and talked about ideas that she's got for going after this veggie grant. It's a $10,000 grant from Hidden Valley, where you do have to use some of their products, but it's promoting more vegetable eating by children. And she just has some fantastic ideas. We're going to submit the grant. They do one per state, but I think she has an excellent chance of actually being considered. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And we're going to submit it. It goes in by, I think, November 28th, and we hear in February. But it's along the lines of how she had been testing fruits, having different kinds of fruits for the kids to try. Well, this would be along the same line in terms of different kinds of vegetables for the students to try. And what I really liked was she was going to measure how much the students were actually consuming by actually composting the waste. And therefore, she would actually have a weight on how much they were actually consuming and how much was being sort of dumped. And a salad bar was going to be part of it, and it's just incredible. I'm so impressed by how creative her ideas were. Yes.
And she
so-
spent a tremendous amount of time on this, I know. And right now, she's home doing some
Working on it.
budgeting stuff on it, so.
She found these very interesting pans that you put in the freezer, because a lot of the vegetable stations require ice underneath them. But if you actually put these special pans in the freezer overnight, you can take them out and use them without ice.
For $8?
Yes. Wow.
But they're expensive, so the grant could help pay
Pay for them.
those. And
She's really done a lot of work.
That's
I think it's great.
Yeah, I like that. There has been a program for some time in the school on smart shopping and nutrition and so forth, and this would mesh quite neatly with that.
It's nice to see her enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Helping
thank
meals.
you for helping her write that grant.
She's doing most of it because a lot of it is what her ideas are. I'm just going to proof it and sit next to her while we put it online, so.
Is there anything the board can do to help her in that regard?
No, I think that she's got it under control, but I'll certainly tell her, she needs
She
help.
has the full
Yeah.
support of the board, you can put that in.
I will, I'll tell her.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
really
sure
like
Pam will
that.
tell her.
Encouragement.
Seriously.
I'm all for it.
Oh, here we are at the New Hampshire School Board Association Delegate Assembly. Want to go?
Yeah, SAU is funding us to go to Orlando, right?
Absolutely.
And so the school board miscellaneous.
This is local government center on Saturday, the 17th, from 1 to 4. So I think it's great to have a new member attend.
Meeting.
And there are the different proposals and the resolutions, and these resolutions help the New Hampshire School Board Association do their lobbying throughout the year with the legislature, not only the state, but the federal.
So bring your wife.
Yeah.
Right.
But you do get a chance to see information and attitudes about the other towns
Yeah.
and how they look at it,
Yeah.
and there can be some interesting.
So having a read on that is good, but I will not be available. Okay, so, thank you, Lisa. But,
Yes, I also think that if you read the resolutions, especially the back 3 or 4 pages, which, 4 or 5 pages, that are the policy resolutions and belief, so statement of beliefs by the School Board Association.
I think that's good to know because they do represent us, so if there's something on those that you think they're off base, we should at least send a little email. and
They are
let them know.
approachable, and you can send them information individually online by going to the website.
Yeah, and it's a useful website. Okay.